this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, November 9th. This meeting is being video and audio recorded for future cable broadcast. If you would please silence all cell phones for the duration of the meeting, and we'll begin tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll begin with the approval of minutes, payroll, and warrants. If I could request a motion of approval, please. Oh, did you need something to suspend a meeting? Roll call to start the meeting?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Mrs. Gomes?
Yes.
Mr. Tevz?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Howcroft?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, if I could request a motion of approval, please, of the minutes of October 12th, 2021.
I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If I could request another approval of the workshop minutes of August 31st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And finally, approval of the payroll and warrants, please, if I could request a motion of approval.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, again, any further discussion? No? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to move into public delegation. Do we have anyone on the sign sheet today? No, okay. And old business, if we could have an update, Dr. Bailey, please, on the mask mandate.
Yep, sure. Within your packets, there's an extension of DESI mask requirement dated October 26th. And as you know, with the communication I sent you, the commissioner has extended the mask requirement through at least January 15th, 2022. So I don't have any other updates at this time. I don't know if anybody else has
Okay,
anything.
any questions from committee members?
I just want to say that we will be discussing the mask mandates at our workshop. That is correct, right? Is that going to be on the agenda?
It is on the agenda,
Yep.
which we will bring any
November
updates forward.
16th, I just got confirmation today from people, so I will be putting that out to the committee as a confirmation on that workshop.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. And Dr. Bailey, if you could continue now with new business?
Sure. All right.
Starting with personnel.
So the first thing is the personnel report. You will see that we had, since the last meeting, 3 new staff members, 1 resignation, and 1 retirement. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Yes, one question. Are all us nurses, are they all fully, all the positions been filled? The medical, with that?
I think we're still in the process now of hiring. Not all the positions have been filled.
Not yet.
No.
But progress is being made, I'm sure.
Correct.
Thank you.
Are we missing any major subjects in the middle school still?
No, we actually just hired a math teacher.
So we're.
So that was the one critical shortage that we had, and that person, I believe, started this week,
Thank you.
right? Any other questions on that?
Yes, I have a quick question. With the medical staff, are there any impediments? Is there any issues that why they're not being filled? In the sense, is there just a lack of applicants, or?
There's a lack of applicants pretty much across the board right now,
Right. Okay.
but we've been fortunate with some of the great staff that we've hired recently.
How
Thank you.
many open positions do we currently have?
I don't have that on my report. Do you have that on your report, Kristen?
I do.
Okay.
I believe there's still 3 open positions that were budgeted for but not filled. There's 1 math teacher at the middle school, 1 building-based sub at the elementary school, and 1 speech pathologist, and those were budgeted for but are not filled at this time.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that we're moving forward with hiring either. We don't need the speech and language pathologist at this time, right? Is that the one?
That's what Mrs. Betancourt
Yeah.
said a month or so ago.
Yeah. Right, so even though they're open, they're positions that we're not filling at this time.
So the math teacher is not considered one of the major ones?
That's an extra math teacher, and I can have Mrs. Sylvia at some point address that.
Okay.
Because we had a death last year, and, we did hire another math teacher, but it would be like an extra one.
Gotcha.
But right now, it's very difficult to find
Mhm.
math teachers, so we have all of the positions filled in terms of with the kids in front of them, kind of a thing. But if we want to restructure and do some of the things we want to do, we do have that one position that we would love to fill, and we're looking for a quality math position.
Gotcha.
Thank you. We do have the one maintenance position that was budgeted for in the ESSER grant that is not filled yet. That's not out of the local budget, but it's out of the grant. And I believe Mr. Willett had some interviews just today. So we've placed ads in the newspaper, on School Spring, on Facebook. So it's a position that we're having a little hard time filling. And then also, we will have some openings coming up. As you saw, we have a resignation from the school nurse, so that's in progress. And I believe we have a retirement coming up in December. So you'll see those hit the next report, I'm sure.
But
Thank you.
hopefully they'll be filled, because we are already looking at a nurse, so. Okay, so any other questions on the personnel report? All right, so I'm going to move into the district improvement plan. And if we could just note that for the district improvement plan, as well as the school improvement plans, those would need a vote. So I did forget to put that in there, so we would need to take a vote on all three of those tonight. And up on the screen, you will see that we have the Acushnet Public Schools District Plan Overview. So I'll be summarizing, but really what I'm referring to is a document in your packet that looks like this. This is a 5-year plan, but it's a very fluid plan that we change based on the needs and the data, et cetera. So this will always be a working document, but this will guide our work. So just to review, this work actually started when I entered the district 4 years ago. We had our listening tours. I spoke to all the stakeholders. So it's not a top-down administrative plan for teachers. This is inclusive of students, parents, teachers, administrators. Everybody, it was a very inclusive process. And then, as you know, we had trends that came out of it, which I'll be addressing tonight. And as a matter of fact, last year, we even did an end-of-the-year reflection survey for the staff based on the work that we were doing, so we got their input. And all of that continues to go into this fluid document. And this document really, as you can see, it highlights who does what, the expected dates, the status, et cetera. So we're constantly looking at it. The vision, Acushnet Public Schools is to be a high-performing school district where all students are afforded the opportunities to realize their potential. And the mission is the Acushnet Public Schools, in partnership with staff, parents, and community, is to promote student success, growth, and learning in a safe and supportive environment. You'll see that we highlighted core values, and again, this work was done collectively and collaboratively. We discussed cultivating student enthusiasm and creativity, enhancing students' critical thinking and problem-solving capabilities, and instilling a growth mindset in students so that they learn to persevere to achieve their hopes and dreams. So this is not just, the ideas of this is not just for students while they're here in Acushnet, but these are life skills that they will take with them. And our theory of action is, if we do this, then this will happen. So if we work in unison as a staff and with our community to create thriving and supportive learning environments and experiences, then our students will excel academically, socially, and emotionally, and be prepared for the challenges that await them. So as we continue to review this document, you'll see that there are strategic objectives, and those were really 3 themes that came across in our work for the past few years. We talked about achieving academic excellence for all students, creating thriving social and emotional experiences for all students. So a lot of times you'll hear SEL when they refer to that, the social emotional learning experiences, and strengthening partnerships with parents and the larger community. So those strategic objectives, you're going to hear when the principals present tonight, really, what does that look like in each school? And then, of course, we have core drivers that were themes in terms of alignment, student support, and communication. And then, again, we put all of our action steps underneath each one. And I have Ms. Regari here tonight, and we're going to be, sharing the podium, if you will, to go over this summary. So welcome.
Thank you.
Gary.
Good evening. So the strategic initiatives that are included in this plan are to establish a consistent model of instruction across classrooms and grade levels, ensure that curriculum maps, assessments, and resources are aligned to the rigor of the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks, implement a multi-tiered system of support for academic and social emotional learning needs, create a consistent grade level and vertical teams to enhance the professional capital of educators, establish a research-based model of safe and supportive classroom and school environments that develops the social and emotional competencies, establish social and emotional building-based teams charged with enhancing the overall climate, prioritize community and family partnerships that support the aligned goals of academic excellence and social emotional learning, and increase communication with parents on academic and social emotional goals through survey data, parent workshops, and in-person meetings and events. And the outcomes are to improve our proficiency rates in the ELA, math, and science categories, improve the percentage of students who are prepared for advanced coursework at the high school level, and to close the achievement gaps that exist currently between subgroups.
So this work has been ongoing. We are just trying to formalize it and put it into a 5-year more formal plan. And we will be getting this up on our website, when it's voted in. But I'm not sure, Madam Chair, how you want to do this tonight, if you want to vote or if you want to hear from the schools and then take a vote at the end for all three.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to hear from both schools, allow the committee to ask questions as we go,
Sure.
and then we can take the vote.
So similar to what I did in your packets, you'll see a plan for Ford Middle School. You'll also see a plan for the elementary school. The principals tonight will be working together to really summarize what that looks like in their schools.
Great.
So I'd like to call them up at this time.
Sorry, I'm gonna do my best to try to read from the screen. If not, I have it near me. It's very tiny.
You want to start?
Oh, I think this clicker will
Tiny.
work.
Middle school?
Thanks.
Oh, nice.
So what Leah and I, questions or no?
No, I was just curious if middle school was going first. I want to,
We're gonna go together.
all right.
Oh, okay.
We'll
We did make one PowerPoint, because what we are doing is directly tied to what Dr. Bailey and Angie Regari just presented. We're not doing anything different. We are a complete 2 schools, 1 district, and I hope it shows in this plan that we are.
Okay. We don't have this in our packet, right? So
No, but if you want it, we can certainly send it to you afterwards.
It's okay. I
It's
think-
basically the same information, though, but it's just
Right.
prettier.
Yep, okay.
So you can see, these are our mission statements right from the plan. And when we came together to talk about how we were going to present this, we were pleasantly surprised that we had actually a lot of commonalities in our mission statements and our theories of action and so on. So, I'm not going to read it to you. It basically is sort of a summary of what is in your packet. But they are definitely taking that line from Dr. Bailey's district improvement plan and extending it through there.
And I just want to add, this is work that's been done with their staff, okay? So this has been a lot of work from, started last year even.
Yes, we were able to start a lot last year and able to carry it through this year, and then onboarding with the AES principal admin team with Julie and Leah has been great to get it. We just serve 2 different ages, but we have the same mission, the same goal, the same everything. So we want to achieve, academic excellence for all students, social and emotional learning for all students, and then strengthen the community and family partnerships that we tried to strengthen before the shutdown, and we are able to now get those partnerships back up and running. So it's a nice thing to have some more community events, like today's Veterans Day community event. You know, a couple of weeks ago, your outside Halloween party.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
was
we're
great.
starting to dip our toe into getting back into the community and getting the community back in with us, so.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a big parade. I don't know, for those of you who didn't know, we had a big parade for veterans from the community. The kids, all 550 of them sang the Star Spangled Banner. It was beautiful, yeah. It was great.
This is
So,
where it's tiny.
yeah, it's a little small. Basically, I think this Venn diagram shows that white circle in the middle, how much we are doing in common. We have adapted programs. We have created collaborative environments for teachers to have time and space to talk about what their issues are with the new curriculum and to support them in any way that they need. We have coaches that have joined our district. And then you can see over on either side, under the AES side, that we have a little bit of a difference there. We've changed our schedule to accommodate our hired interventionists, for example, so that we would maximize their time. But in the overall picture, I think that there's more in common than there is separate.
Yes, and you can see on the FMS side, we had it in the past built in time during the school day for all of the ELA teachers to meet, or all of the math and all of the science. It usually was just all of the grade 5 teachers would meet. Last year afforded us the opportunity to see that vertical, so now we've carried it into this year. We have a lot of moving parts on any given day, but everyone has come together to make this happen. So the grades meet to talk about students, if, you know, students struggling in a certain subject, they see what works in a math class. The ELA teacher might replicate that. But then the vertical, the 8th grade science teacher has a chance to meet with the 5th grade and the 6th grade science teacher throughout the week to discuss that vertical thread also. You can see we revised the 5th grade schedule. So this year, all 5th graders receive 120 minutes in ELA and in math. That is new. We didn't have that before this year. So we are looking at increasing that, and that leads to that position that is not filled yet, Sarah, in the math department, because it's not crucial yet. Everyone has a certified math teacher, but it is something we would want in the future if we then bring up that model to the 6th grade also, or the 7th or the 8th in the future. The reading specialist is new to us. It's a great addition to have. We've already seen growth in our dibbles from that red to the yellow to the green students. It's such a blessing to have that, I think. And then we have the win period, the what I need period. So if kids need an intervention in math, they can go to the math teachers during that time, or the ELA on a certain day of the week.
And that reading specialist is that new position
Yes.
that we just
Yes.
approved
Yes.
last year.
Her office is back here, so it is the hub in the Library Media Center, so we have the reading specialist there. And she started with 5th grade students, now we're going into the 6th grade, and then as she's able to, then bring in 7th and 8th. Eventually, by the end of the year, maybe March, bridge over to 4th grade and see how the 4th grade to 5th grade. And get her
transition.
working with the reading interventionist at the elementary school also.
Are there any other questions on strength, on the
sorry.
academic excellence? Sorry. Okay.
I was trying to add.
That's all right, that's okay.
I guess
So-
I have one more question, sorry.
Sure.
So I know that it sounds like the middle school's been doing a lot of work for the vertical alignment piece. That was something that came out of your many talks with teachers and during your listening tours. How is the elementary school adapting to that? Is there
So,
integration of a vertical
First,
alignment?
we started with the horizontal alignment to make sure that with this new program that everyone is being able to adopt it the same. The good news is that by having a common program, that alignment kind of is built in. But that is definitely something that we would like to see happening at our CIA times or something like that. But our focus really has been adopting this very sometimes unwieldy program and giving teachers support for that, getting them used to the online data collection, which is new for them this year, getting them used to this schedule that they had, which was new for them this year, getting them used to the expectations that they had, many of which were new this year. So we are throwing a lot at them for 2 administrators who just started this year, and that is definitely in the works, though. Thank you.
And they are responding beautifully, the educators. Can you just talk a little bit about what CST looks like? Because that is That's a very different format. Like, when I go to those meetings this year, they seem very different than in the past. So I would love just for you to enlighten the committee on what is
Sure.
happening during those meetings.
So CST time is a weekly meeting for homeroom, rather regular education and inclusion teachers once a week. And during that time, we actually started to sketch out a plan back in the summer, but we address a variety of issues. For example, we go through our online assessments and create an assessment that is going to be manageable for the teachers and really address the standards, looking at specific questions that are working and what might not be working. Last week, we were talking about Lexia reports that teachers were able to access and discussing what that would say about the kids. And then we created a time this week to talk with interventionists so that they could talk about how those kids are doing in their classroom. So it's very structured. Julie and I often run it, but also we have the coaches who are helping us run it as well. And we really respond to what the needs are too as they come up. So it's pretty well planned, but we will go ahead and create whatever, it's almost like a mini professional development. It really is, once a week.
I had a question. So when we're asked, what programs do we use? Do we have them now? Can you tell us what's
Yes.
being used in the elementary school
Sure.
and in the Ford Middle School?
So we use Envision Math, K through 8.
Correct.
Envision.
Math, K through 8. Your ELA at the elementary school
Is Wonders K
K
through,
6.
yep, K through 6.
It's in the,
Oh.
Oh, it's in there?
it's
I'm
in
sorry.
the district plan
Both
overview.
plans.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
when you go down here, it has all the,
Oh, perfect.
okay,
It's in
so
both
it's all
school,
in here.
it's in the school improvement
Perfect.
plans as
I
well.
didn't see that part. Thank you. I'll take a look at that.
I don't know if they have all the tools listed that they're using, but the curriculum is in there.
It starts on page 2 and it goes into page 3, but it's like a graph, and it outlines the grade levels, the name of the program, and when the license, I believe,
Runs
how
out.
long we have it for.
Okay.
And that's in the district
Oh, I see it.
overview.
Okay, thank you.
And if you can look in the middle, it does say learning walks at the bottom, and actually, it does address something we saw in the first grade or kindergarten classroom, Friends of 10. And I said, oh, we need to follow Friends of 10 all the way up through 8th
Right.
grade to see how that Friends of 10 will help, or how it impacts the middle schoolers. So when you asked about the vertical, we are looking at even a K through 8 vertical alignment, how something they learn in the elementary school, they need to have that secured to, master 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
So the administrators from the middle school go on the learning walks at the elementary and vice versa, and the goal will be to have teachers join these learning walks as well. We're just getting,
We've
aligned
already
with what
done
we're
2
doing, but, that's the goal.
That's all new,
Consistently.
all new.
We were doing this last year, but it's getting better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay,
Yes.
Your turn.
The SEL. So we have both schools, monthly character trait awards. Respect, responsibility, good character, always do the best when no one is looking. A wellness committee, we're working together with both schools in our wellness committee. We're gonna pilot an SEL curriculum, one really preferably K through 8 SEL curriculum like we have in Visions for K through 8. We want the continuity there. We want that continuum there, so it's common language, common thoughts, common subject areas. The sense of belonging surveys we'll be sending out shortly to families, and our team at the middle school and at the elementary school will be administering it with detail, with instruction to our students.
So
We're going
going
to
back
use
to the
that
2
data.
schools, 1 district, today, for example, the clinical team met, and those are counselors from each school coming together to meet together to talk about common curriculum, going over the administration of the sense of belonging survey. What does that look like in each classroom? We came up with a schedule of when it will be administered, 1 grade level at a time, so that everybody is consistently giving the survey in the same manner. The family survey, just while we're on the topic, will be going out Monday. But this is just beginning of the year data, and then we'll do another very similar survey at the end of the year so that we can hopefully see growth.
You know, at Ford, in my newsletter every other week, I have student shout-outs. Those aren't made up. The teachers submit those shout-outs, custodians, counselors, secretaries, paraprofessionals, even myself, I give student shout-outs. And I like a couple of times I've asked the students for shout-outs for the teachers, and they're so great when they give those shout-outs to the staff. It's wonderful to read. Our after-school help and late buses, we revamped, so I have 4 days of after-school help, 4 days of late buses, almost every other week. It's actually about 80 days of late buses in all, and I'm increasing the number riding those buses also. We're going to monitor the 4th to 5th grade transition, and then we want to revise the 5th to 6th grade transition, continue our school-wide SEL activities.
Yep, and we also have new activities as well. A lot of it involves entertaining the students at lunch, which is very important when you're trying to keep them, we have them 6 feet apart and, you know, sitting down for the whole time. So we have Lexi Awards, we have our PBIS Awards, and that includes a visit from a community member to those students who received those awards, and we are going to be tracking them over the years to make sure that all students have an opportunity to be included in that award process. Ms. Bassetto is very excited because we bought a karaoke machine, and I think we should get a video of that up somewhere. I think that'd be very entertaining, because we're just trying to make things for the entire school as fun as possible. And I think today was a great example of the whole school coming together for a single purpose.
Any questions on this slide? And the last one is the partnerships with our communities and our families, something that we strive for every single day. Positive communication, you know, the proactive communication. We're always in touch with our families, always answering questions, and I love how, you know, the students here at the middle school will just email me with questions, and they know how to ask for the information they need. They know how to go to the adults that they need to go to. We have community mentors at the middle school. PTO, we've increased our participation. Our teachers have increased their participation in the PTO. The family survey will be going out. The partnership audit, who do we go to in the community besides the Acushnet Public Library, Acushnet Council on Aging, the EMS, we go to Child and Family. We have CHU course, that's through the Sheriff's Office. We have youth court that we send students to if needed, you know. And you have a
Yeah, we just started back with foster grandparents, or actually, I think this is new to the district, the foster grandparent program through the council, well, Coastline. We also are working, hopefully getting the YMCA to come in and provide after-school care for parents who need it. We are having parent forums before our PTO time to, you know, basically increase that two-way communication. We also do newsletters about the same intervals that they do over at FMS. Any questions on this slide?
And that is just a synopsis of both.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions on the actual improvement plans for either AES or FMS?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess there's a lot of, I'll call it achievement data that we got in our packets, and I didn't know, I guess I was looking for maybe a little bit of a summary from, on what we should be looking at, or really kind of extracting from this, or maybe what you extract from the data. And of course, 2020 is empty, but I'm just curious, you know, first, I'm just looking at it and trying to figure out, so this is not tracking one group of kids going through different grades. This is different groups of kids each year, correct?
You probably could track them if you followed the date. So if you took 2007 from grade 5.
I tried to do that, yeah, so yeah, you kind of can, but you got to skip with the
kinda can,
2020,
yes.
right? Okay. And then boy is beginning of the year, so I
Yes.
figured that out after a minute. And then, so yeah, I was just curious, kind of in general, I mean, what do you extract from that data
We
from the
have some more
elementary
work
school?
to
and from
do. Across across the two schools, and that's what we've started this year with that curriculum pacing guide, with the assessment calendar, so that we're monitoring how long units are taking. If they're supposed to take 36, why did it take 46? Ask that question. Look at the data after, because the assessment calendar says they're taking topic 2 in the first week of December. So then we have that point and that data point to look at. So this is the jumping off point, and we will be collecting data and making updates to this plan, or not updates, but data benchmarks along the way, and providing the data with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that for us, our most actionable data was our beginning of the year data. So, for example, we saw grade levels needing some increased work at the word level, for reading. And so then our next steps that we talk about in our CST is, okay, well, how do we make sure that all of the, because to me, you can look at a graph, but really behind that graph are a bunch of little people, right? And so how do we make sure all those people who are not on that meeting side, how are they getting whatever they need so we can move them there so their opportunities are not blocked by their inability to read?
Mike, is this scaled each year?
The
So for
MCAS?
example, yeah, so when it's obviously state
Yes.
run, so is it scaled, or are the expectations always the same for each grade level? Do we know?
My understanding
So-
is that it's based on a curve, but, please correct me if I'm wrong, and that it's
The nod in
based
the
on the,
So are you asking about every year? the
So is it
third grade?
relative, right? So in other words, we're not taking this data and trying to figure out, like, okay, what is the gap?
no, I
Left
think,
by-
yeah, and probably our most valuable way to look at MCAS data, because it is kind of old when you think about it, all those kids have moved on,
Yeah.
is to look at trends in standard acquisition. So where are the kids falling down in the whole sample, right? Is there some sort of trend there? And if there is, what materials were we using to address that standard, and what might we do to help them? Or are there trends the other way? And
So
what
that
does
wouldn't
that
look
tell
at
us?
the same group of students, that looks at the same grade. So every fifth grade year, what are the standards they need help in, and what are the standards
Correct.
they've excelled in? So that we look at it that way also.
Okay, good.
So
Got it. So, like, for example, I felt like there were probably a lot, well, I say more students not meeting expectations by the time we get to the 8th grade data, for example.
Right.
Right?
And so when I mentioned that learning walk, and when we walked through the elementary school and the Friends of 10, that really does set a good base for how they can succeed and master the standard in the 7th and 8th, and we just need to get our teachers to see that connected bridge from AES to FMS.
Do you think was the curriculum always spiraling correctly from 5 to 8? No, and so now you feel like it is?
Well, now we're using programs K through 8. Now we're using the Wonders program K through 6. Amplify Science is now 5 through 8.
And they're all green rated.
Yes.
Everything
The
was
ones that
out
we
of date
purchased.
before.
So green rated means they're
High
good, like
quality.
thumbs up? Okay.
High-quality
So
curriculum.
that means
So-
good.
That's good, but we're, like Sarah said, we're starting.
We're starting in that new cycle, so
Right.
our fifth graders last year had envisioned this is their second year, so that commonality and that language and those terms that that program used, they did not have from the elementary school to fall back on. So it's a progress, it's a process.
Okay,
And that's
and
why our pacing guide, our assessment calendar is so important to follow to keep everyone on that path.
do you feel as though the rigor is there, like far more rigorous than what we had before, or?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I can't speak to exactly what was there
Yeah.
before, but the
Past we
rigor is
didn't have
there.
programs.
Yeah, the
Okay.
literature, the topics that they have to do in math, the grappling, all those things are there.
I will say that teachers, in the couple of meetings that I've been at, teachers are saying that kids are struggling with the
Yeah.
things. And like I said during that
That's okay.
meeting, this is all new for them. They haven't had this program, they didn't have it last year. So there is a learning curve.
I have one more question. I don't want to hog.
It's okay.
So in our workshops, we had talked a lot about specific goals, Dr. Bailey, on kind of growth and that first, I guess, objective that you had. How do we even come up with a starting point on that?
Whose goal are you talking about?
Which one?
I was talking about, so there is, oh, God. Okay. It's achieving academic excellence for all students.
Yeah.
And then the outcomes that we're looking for is to improve our proficiency rates, to increase the percentage of students scoring in the meeting and exceeding categories for ELA, math, and science. So my question is, if we're to kind of have some basis for measurement on that, I mean, where's the starting point on that? And of course, number 2 says improve the percentage of students prepared for advanced level coursework in high school and close the achievement gaps that exist between subgroups. So I'd imagine we'd have to use some sort of measure, like data and measurement pieces to figure out, okay, are we moving in the right direction, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we progress monitor in STAR Math, we have the Lexia, you have the Dibbles.
Yep, we have Dibble's Math.
And each one of those have their own metric, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Right, this is the umbrella,
Right.
sort of for the district, and then they get more in the weeds of the data and take where they are at, whether it's grade 1 as a group, and they come up with goals on how they're going to move the kids. But we did come up at that meeting with some ideas for teachers, a menu of goals, if you will, that they can, that guides them.
I would say, so one of the most important documents we have right now is that APS, curriculum, pacing guide, assessment calendar. There is nothing left off of that. So our STAR Math, we had a beginning of the year STAR Math the first week, second week. STAR Math will now be tested again, I believe, next week.
Yep, progress monitoring.
Progress monitoring, and then we can look, okay, who is not making gains, who needs an intervention? And we have to keep progress monitoring throughout the year and adjust as needed the interventions.
Right, so it's only as good as what we're doing with the data. It's not like we're just assessing kids to assess kids. They're actually looking at the data, analyzing it, talking about it, and coming up with a plan, and it's informing their instruction as we move forward.
So will we see something, let's say, in March to May, of some sort of graph on this
Oh,
is
yeah.
how first grade's doing, and you're gonna take all that data, put it into like something super simple for us to understand. So when we go to town meeting and say we need a certain amount of money, and I'm being serious about this.
Oh, yes, yes.
That, and we need to, renew these curriculums or whatever, that we can simply say, look, this is what's happening, and this is why we need to increase spending, or decrease spending, or whatever the case may be.
Or not decreasing.
Right,
Right.
but I'm just saying, there needs to be something simple. We've never had that really, because we've always had such old curriculum. But
We've never had this progress monitoring. We've never had this guide to follow. Like, that I can have a conversation when I walk into an ELA class and say, oh, I noticed you're working on this. The guide said this. Tell me, work me through
And
it.
that's simply a result of having it's green rated, right?
I can tell you that the
Up-to-date
conversations.
curriculum. in our
And
district.
academic coaches and a reading specialist, a director
Yeah.
of curriculum instruction and assessment, administrators all working together with Dr. Bailey.
Having
Our-
the right tools is important.
Now,
Key.
with that said, there's a few things that I think might be a little bit unfair in looking at, let's say, a 6-month result, right?
Right.
I mean, this is a district plan that's supposed to span over 5 years, for example. But for me, personally, and quite frankly, just to put some real data to this, I think actually tracking those groups through the different grades is more important than us seeing, 2022 next to 2021. It's a different subset of kids. So I think following those kids through their path and their journey through the different grades is more important in seeing that improvement, because it's the same constant, I guess, assumingly, right?
Yeah.
You've
You
got
could, so
some that
this
are-
year's 8th graders are a class of 22. So if you looked at last year, they would be the 7th graders. They don't have data there for MCAS 6th graders, but they do have 5th grade data from 4 years ago. So you could track it on that. So we do it both ways.
But we don't have to go by MCAS. We can go by all the other things that we're using.
yeah.
So we-
Galileo, the
Correct.
Lexia, the
So we
Star, the
could
Dibbles.
literally follow a kindergartner
And
through
that's-
8th grade.
And that's the goal of having the K through 8 programs.
I would love to see that.
Oh, by the way, are we continuing with, I forget what it's called, but you had mentioned that you're possibly considering changing, I think it was Galileo?
We still have
You're
it for this year.
Okay, still have it for this year, but you're
Yes.
considering
We're
changing
looking at what
that?
other districts are using.
Okay. Because that might interrupt some of the data points as well. Now we're changing assessments, but,
It shouldn't, it's still a BOY, beginning of the year, what a sixth grader has to do, and then the
Okay.
middle of the year, what a sixth grader has to do, and then an end of the year. It shouldn't change that much.
So it's
still
not,
based on
you don't
standards.
typically see a step backwards and then 2 steps
Still
forward?
standards based.
I mean, we haven't
Those don't
changed
change.
the assessment, I don't think, in Acushnet. So Galileo is a predictor. It's supposed to be a predictor of MCAS, so that teachers can see where the kids are at beginning of the year, middle of the year, and what they need to do. And a lot of times, when you look at that data, it is kind of similar when the MCAS data comes out. So I've seen it match up fairly close, so that's what it's designed to do. Do I think it's the best one out there? No. But my opinion this year, when it was brought up, it's too many changes at once. With not having MCAS, with all this new curriculum, to put another new assessment in the hands of teachers, it was unfair. So I, suggested that we continue with Galileo and keep the consistency there, at least right now, and let's see how people do with the new curriculum.
Can we start seeing, or can it be expected now for like future school committee boards, like in May, this is where we see these grades falling, or in March, or whatever month you choose? Like, wouldn't that be nice to be like, all right, we'll find out what's going on with our students in May of every year to see how they've done with their dibbles or
well,
whatever?
when do you do the mid-year?
Whenever you do, I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm assuming whenever the mid-year is the next school committee,
Well,
we
there's
would
one in
have those
December, so I would
reports.
say maybe January,
Right.
February would be a nice
Yeah.
progress monitoring update, benchmark update.
Just
I
so we
don't,
can
I don't think they necessarily need to come and have a formal presentation.
No, it doesn't
on
have to be
but if
formal.
they-
I would just like to see,
Yeah.
with the money that we're spending in the district and how we're fighting for all this change and want to keep it,
Want to keep
we're gonna need to see numbers, and I think, something every January would be fantastic, because budget comes in March, right? So that would give us time to take that information and.
I mean, I can tell you, from my perspective, that the culture has truly, it's changing right in front of us. The conversations that are going on, the way teachers are talking to each other and collaborating, it's so different from when I walked in the district 4 years ago.
Fantastic.
And so we're continuously, every year, building and getting better. But it's something to be proud of. I really sincerely mean that the administrators and teachers in this district should be proud. They've learned a lot. They've built their capacity in the past few years, especially during COVID. With all this new curriculum, unfortunately, Acushnet had a lot of new curriculum that we had to update. It wasn't, but our plan is to get us on an adoption cycle so that we're not doing all this curriculum at one time. It's too much. But we also know that we don't have a year to waste with our students, so we're doing what is manageable. And we have more new curriculum that we're going to be getting next year because we couldn't do it all this year.
Right. Okay,
Great.
thank you.
So if you don't have any other questions, I would ask the committee to vote on all of the plans, the district improvement plan, FMS and AES school improvement plans, and just keeping in mind, these are not plans that we stick up on a shelf. These are working documents that we're, constantly talking about in our
And-
meetings.
Do we need 3 separate votes, Mrs. Benavides?
We should do 3 separate
Yeah.
votes.
3 separate votes,
Yep.
and should they be roll call votes?
We don't need roll
No?
call.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions on this? No? Okay. Thank you so much for that presentation. That was excellent. That's really great to hear some of the progress being made. Okay, if I could request a motion of approval, please, for the district improvement plan, the district strategy that was presented.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then if I could also request another motion of approval for the FMS school improvement plan.
So move?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Finally, a motion of approval, please, for the AES School Improvement Plan.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. And just to reiterate, you will be getting updates throughout the year on all of this
Thank
work.
you.
Absolutely.
Great.
The next thing that we wanted to go over on the agenda was the ESSER grants update and some of the other grants, actually. I'm going to go through this rather quickly because we've actually presented a lot of this information, but I thought what would be helpful tonight is if we kind of put it all in one place. So all of these grants are representative of our grants throughout the district except for special education, okay? So, okay, nope. There we go. So on that first page, we've got the grants listed, the funding periods, and the allocation. The one up there that I want to point out is ESSER 3. It's still pending. We submitted it. We're waiting on approval for that. But you can see it's quite a bit of money. And one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is that ESSER 3, we did do a survey, if you recall, to get input from all of the stakeholders throughout the district. So we're going to go over that data with you to talk to you a little bit about what we're spending the money on.
Okay. So we'll start with the SR2. This is just a description of it. It was in, response to the pandemic, and the funding was to support learning loss and to safely reopen schools. The allocation was $304,882, and we used, or are in the process of using this funding. We had summer learning last school year, after-school supports, professional development. We funded a .34 school adjustment counselor for additional SEL supports. There was an increased need for facilities maintenance, cleaning, increase in utilities, heating bills with the ventilation. We still have trailers that we are renting with the furniture that was moved out to create social distancing. And we wanted to run a feasibility study to look at outdoor learning spaces in a greenscape project. We spent a lot of money in tent rentals through the course of the pandemic and just looking to get ways to get students outside and learning more, both for the SEL piece and the social distancing. And we just found that with a lot of outdoor time during the course of the pandemic, that it was made for great learning spaces. Technology support services, there was an increased need there with all of the Chromebooks that were now in student hands, touch view panels, and additional Chromebooks. Modernizing the FMS Library and Media Center, and we increased the number of late buses.
Just curious, that I think it's so great to see the increase in late buses, but I'm curious if they're being taken advantage of. Are we seeing that families are using them?
So I think we're seeing that some days, some of the late buses are running with just only a few students in them. Is that, yeah. But what we're doing is the collaboration that's happening between the two schools is amazing. And what we're going to work on with the principals are working on currently is trying to find a way so that the late buses can depart from the Ford Middle School and head to the elementary school and do a pickup there so that the students can do maybe like a 45-minute after school at the elementary school and take advantage of the late bus. And maybe there'll be, at least more students taking advantage.
Great, okay, thank you.
So we went from having after school 2 days a week to 4 days a week. So with that, I think that it's just a little more spread out with the students staying. So we had more students on the late bus when we had after school 2 days a week because more students were staying in just those 2 days.
Right.
Yep. So the SR3, very similar to the SR1 as far as safe return to school and addressing the learning gaps and the social emotional needs and mental health needs.
So if you recall, we had a survey, and this survey represents 164 total responses. It's important to note that people were able to check off more than one box or to be represented in more than one way. So they could say that they were a teacher, but they could also be a family in Acushnet, et cetera. But, this gives you an idea of, who took the survey and how it was spread out. And I just want to say before Ms. Regari talks about this, when we did the survey, we basically put choices on there of all the allowable expenses that was allowed. This wasn't just a random thing that people could say, I want to spend money on this. These are all allowable expenses that people could really talk about what was important to them. So we're just going to quickly review, what the results of that survey.
So there were 3 categories: academics and instruction, operations, and then the social emotional supports. So for academics and instruction, you can see that there was, the community felt that it was very important to address early literacy, K-12 math skill building, and then planning and implementing summer learning and supplemental after-school programs, and providing principals and school leaders with resources to address individual school needs. For the social emotional piece, evidence-based activities, parent engagement, tracking attendance, and improving student engagement was important. Activities to address the unique needs of the various subgroups was important. And maximizing capacity for coordination to connect students to behavioral and mental health services was very important. On the operations, educational technology, school ventilation improvements, COVID-19 testing, PPE, and supplies, planning for and coordinating during long-term closures, and other activities necessary to maintain district operations. So it's kind of, everything seemed important, I think, at the time of the survey.
What really stood out, though, I kept seeing over and over the school ventilation, and we also had comments on this survey, and there was a lot of comments about that as well. So that was definitely a trend that we saw in this survey.
Yes, it was. And so a lot of the funding, and this is, again, pending approval, what we had applied for was similar to the what we had applied for the ESSER 2, with the addition of HVAC.
Okay, and then we've already presented on this in the past, but I thought it was important to mention, we've never really had a summer acceleration academy before. We've always had a summer program for students with disabilities, but this was basically a focus for early literacy, for rising kindergartners, rising first graders, and rising second graders, and then a math academy for rising third, fourth, eighth, and eighth graders. So they loved it. The kids loved it. The staff loved it. It was a great program. And the allocation for that was $30,500, which addressed learning loss. And it was a very well-received program by all.
Was an intensive 1 week. So Title I funding is, the priority for Title I is to strengthen the core program and provide academic and support services to low-achieving students at the elementary school. And for that, we've budgeted for 1.5 interventionists for tutoring, ELA, and math assessments. Some of the assessments that were just discussed previously with the principals, these assessments are being used to flag students who may need the title services and for professional development. Title II is supplemental resources to for schools, districts to support excellence in teaching and leading. And we use this funding to support our induction and mentoring program for first and second year teachers. Whoops. So Title IV funding provides districts with funds to build capacity and ensure that all students have access to a high-quality educational experience. And we've done a lot of talking about interventions for students who need the interventions. So this year, we decided to contract with Apex Learning to provide accelerated coursework for students in grades 6 through 8. So we're using this data to identify students who really may not so much need the interventions, but who are doing quite well, and that we don't want to provide that extra challenge. And that's it.
Does anybody have any questions? I know we've continuously gone over these things separately, but I thought it was a good idea because there are a lot of grants right now with COVID, to kind of put it all together so you could see what we're doing.
I have a question. How many students are in the Apex Accelerated?
So we haven't, we're in the process of starting that right now. We've just, we have a staff member who's going to take on the position of kind of facilitating that. As the data is now pouring in, we're in the process of identifying the students. But we have 50 seats available.
Thank you.
And the courses, the seats can be reused. So if a student takes a course, completes the course, then that seat becomes reavailable to take another course. It doesn't even have to be the same student.
It's fluid based on the data, so it doesn't mean that a student would take advanced work in every subject area. They could, take math, for example.
But they could if they had the ability.
Yeah. And this is something, as you know, we've talked about as a need in the district. And, this was a creative way with limited staff to get this going. It's something right now.
Yep, so the Ford will use, actually probably mostly this space here. And it's during the what I need period. So while certain students are getting interventions or working on grade level, other students may be coming here and taking these additional courses and have support. And it'll probably also be, it's a commitment from the student. So I don't think that half an hour period, a few days a week, is going to fully cover the time that they'll have to put in. So it'll be a commitment that, if they want to take these, there's some of the courses are really interesting. And so hopefully they find that exciting. And
Will this help them going into high school? Would it allow them to go into certain classes that maybe they wouldn't have had the opportunity if they weren't in those classes?
so because we're in middle school, it doesn't necessarily, so they're not going to be able to take the classes for credit.
Okay.
But I think the experience alone, because there are opportunities in high school for this type of learning, digital learning, just the experience alone, I think, will be helpful as kids go into high school.
Fantastic.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank Ms. Regari for all of her work on all of this. Hopefully, you see the difference in having these positions in the district in terms of a curriculum director, a reading specialist. We've hired new principals, and everyone is collaborating and working together, and they're really embracing that 2 schools, 1 district. I mean, we're only 2 schools. Let's pool our resources together to make it the best we can for our little Wildcats. So, any questions at all or not? Okay. Next, on my agenda, we've talked about branding, signage. I know we've talked about looking at our signage outside and coming up with some new things. And as we were looking at signage, I know that Mrs. Gomes was there for this, and she suggested that I put on the agenda the school colors. And the reason why we're bringing that up is because, we seem to have a lot of different shades of blue when we order things.
Marketing nightmare.
Yeah, right. And royal blue is not often available. So for example, these tablecloths, we couldn't get in royal blue. So you'll see a lot of, things that we order are often navy blue or another shade of blue. So, my recommendation is that we have our own unique color because our children go off to, 3 to 5 different high schools. And I know Fairhaven has the royal blue, but it would be nice just for Acushnet to kind of have their own color and then they can go into the various, whatever high school they want to go into. You know, my recommendation, based on the fact that we've had trouble ordering things with royal blue, and royal blue is also associated with one of the high schools, is that we go with navy blue. But again, I wanted to put it out there for a vote because that's not really for me to decide. I did talk to people in the district, and it seems like navy is a common color that people like.
Well, if you look at the PTO, all of their products that they've ordered for the past 9 years has been navy.
Gray, navy,
Gray, but it's always navy. The navy is the blue color.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and the same thing with the ATA. Nothing's the royal blue, it's all the navy colors.
Yep.
So going forward, since everybody already has these, it would make sense to me personally to stick with the navy and just roll with
Yeah,
it.
I prefer navy.
me too.
I like both.
It doesn't matter.
Navy.
I had to look it up. I don't care.
What do the kids think?
I don't think we've really put it out there to them because, again, I think it's a lot. And then when you explain to kids that, well, we can't really order things, and it's just,
We
you know,
did that with the Wildcat, and that was.
remember that,
Remember that? Oh, my goodness, that was.
I think the kids are just happy to get things, like, you know, with the logo and the Wildcat. And I also like the idea of Acushnet having their own unique color, and then going to the high schools that all have different colors, right? So it's just a thought. This conversation came up when we were looking at signage outside, and we have maroon. I mean, this is just, so we're trying to kind of rebrand and get all of our signage maybe looking the same.
For what
You know.
it's worth, when I was a student here, it was navy blue, so.
Oh.
All
that-
right, well, we got to go back to the
At
origin.
Yeah.
one point, it was.
Go
it
back
was
to our
navy
roots.
blue.
What year?
Yeah, so I'm not sure, I'm not sure what changed.
55, I think.
All right, well, okay, it sounds like we already have consensus, but if I could request a motion of approval to accept the school color of navy blue for consistent branding going forward.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And on the same topic, I just wanted to share with you, we gave all of our abutting neighbors water bottles with a letter. I don't know if you want to just pass it around, but we basically told them about, we were looking at doing the signs. And I did have a neighbor call me and say, in all the years that she's lived here, she's never gotten anything. And so, again, we want to be a good neighbor to our neighbors, and they've been wonderful with us. So they did seem to appreciate when we had the truck pull up with different signage. We invited them to have some input. But I just wanted to share that with you as well. And then the last thing I had, and actually, it's already been brought up, is that the sense of belonging surveys, I just wanted to reiterate that those will be going out on Monday to all of the families, and that starting, I believe, next week, they will be done grades 3 through 8 in the schools by the clinical team. So, and we'll report out on that in the future when we get that data together. Does anybody have any questions for me? Oh, sure.
I just want to add that those sense of belonging surveys were recommended by the Department of Education through the acceleration roadmap this year. So they're very closely aligned to the surveys that they had suggested that we give.
Thank you.
Great.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
No, I really want to just share my appreciation, express my appreciation for the district's efforts in being, in communicating with families and being inclusive and trying to get feedback with the ESSER grant and this. I mean, it's just, I think it's fantastic that we're going out of the way to make our community feel, connected
It
with
takes a
this district.
village.
So it's really great, and it shows. All right, so with that, Mrs. Flynn, over to you.
Okay, thanks. Just a few things, my usual budget update. So you can see the one-page summary of our major accounts with their surpluses and deficits. And again, at this time, we really are just reporting on salaries, tuition, and transportation. In the coming months, once we start getting some more electric bills and oil bills, you'll see those coming onto the report. Nothing really has changed since the past few months. We've got some surpluses in salaries, due to positions being filled or not being filled. We've had some leaves of absences. So, over the course of the year, this is going to change as we fill more positions, as people retire or resign, new people come in. So this is just tracking it month to month. We did get our first high school tuition invoices from Fairhaven High School and Bristol Aggie, so you can see how we are doing there. In Bristol Aggie, they announced a debt assessment to districts, and that was notified to us after the budget was passed. So unfortunately, that's why you see approximate $60,000 deficit for Bristol Aggie, because we didn't have a chance to get that into our budget request, but nevertheless, it is being assessed to all the communities that go to Bristol Aggie for part of their building project. We're still waiting on the first invoice from New Bedford High. This is based on the students' enrollment as of 10/1. It looks like there's 29 students enrolled at New Bedford High, and we had budgeted about 22, it looks like. So once we get the actual invoice, we'll see, because there are some students that I've been trying to check on with student services that are students that I don't recognize from years past, so we want to get a good check on those. Also, out-of-district tuition, that, as you know, changes sometimes from month to month, so we do have some potential out-of-district placements pending, so we're working with student services on that just to make sure we're providing up-to-date information. Same thing with out-of-district transportation. So you also have the summarized budget that you can look at the consolidated line items. We have that. That's as of October 31st, I believe, or October 29th. And what I did also in this report is to summarize all of our funds under the school department control, because I know I've talked a lot over the past couple months about our local budget, our grants, our funds, our capital articles. So I thought it would just be quick and easy to summarize all of them, so you could just get a quick look. Local budget is $15 million. Grants are $1.5 million. Funds are just $1,050,000. Capital articles are about $120,000. So all told, under school department's control at the present time is about $18,044,000. So I just thought that would be useful, just as a quick summary of everything. If you want to look into what those are, I've reported in detail in past months, or you can certainly, ask a question. We also, as you know, last year the town afforded us $350,000 of their CARES grant for reimbursement, and so we had pretty much expended that right around March of last year. We reached our limit. So now, in meeting with the town administrator and the town accountant, they do have some CARES money still, so they said, please submit some expenditures that may or may be reimbursable. And we'll take a look and see. So we came up with some expenditures that we had purchased after we reached that limit in March last year, of what I thought were, typical COVID type expenditures, and there's also some that we've made this year. So all told, we forwarded about $116,000 to the town earlier this month for consideration for reimbursement under either CARES or FEMA. So in the reimbursements for expenses incurred in FY21 was about $66,000. If we do get reimbursed, those will close out to the town's general fund because the year is over. Anything that we will be reimbursed for this year will go against our school budget, so that it'll effectively lower our expenditures and increase the bottom line. And that was about $50,000. It remains to be seen whether or not all of those will be reimbursed, but we did forward those to them. Anything on the budget? That's all I have for the budget right now. No. Just a quick facilities update. Mr. Willett provided some information about some damage that we had as a result of the October 27th nor'easter. We had some trees fall. I'm sure you saw it or you had it in your yards. A lot of cleanup of branches and leaves. Some roof panels were damaged or blown off. We had some broken and loose exhaust fans and roof drain covers up on the roof, so Mr. Willett's been checking those out. Some roof leaks, superficial wind damage. So Fortunately, nothing real major, but a lot of nuisance stuff that took some time for the facilities and maintenance and custodians to clean up afterwards. Some ongoing projects he wants to let us know about, daily just repairs and adjustments that come up. Heating system, even though today was beautiful, we're getting into heating season, so, when we do turn those on, we do find out that certain things, that were working last year are not working now, so just continuing adjustments and repairs on that. Ceiling tiles from water damage, that's ongoing. COVID-related upkeep, of course, we're still doing more frequent cleaning, more replacement of soap, paper towels, supplies that the classrooms need. Starting to prep the winter equipment. The shed project is moving along. Old Colony has been here this week, putting up the roof trusses. Doing a lot of research for the ESSER projects, the HVAC and some of the other ESSER projects that we'll be doing. And our recent nuisance is the curtain in the gym is broken, the motor. So it is in the down position, so it's impacting, our evening basketball. So we're trying to get a new motor and get that fixed as soon as possible. And again, as Ms. Ruggieri talked about, we do have the trailer still, so we're using some of the ESSER funds to get the movers back this Saturday. So they're going to really try to empty out. Our custodians have been working hard doing that, but these are the larger, more cumbersome items. So we're going to do a big push on Saturday and try to get most of the trailers empty, or some of the, the furniture back into the classroom, or if it can't go quite yet, then stored somewhere else so we can get those trailers off our property and get some of the things back to where they're needed. So that's it for facilities, other than actually the roof.
We just have one
Yes.
question here.
The motor is under warranty, right?
No, this isn't the wall.
Oh, it's
This
not the
is
wall.
the curtain.
Oh, okay.
Yes, at first I thought it was the wall, and I said, oh, no, please,
know.
because that just got, no, it's the curtain that's been there. We've actually never had to have it repaired, so it's probably original to when the building was renovated.
Thank
So
you.
it's time. But no, thank God it's not the wall. So the roof, we did have the bid opening for the elementary school roof replacement. We're replacing approximately 65,000 square feet of the elementary roof this summer. This is an MSBA project, as you know. They're funding 57.74%, so the town only has to pay the other portion of it. So we opened the bids. The bids were opened on October 21st. The low bidder was Young Developers out of Connecticut, and their bid was $1,951,000. Bids ranged from $1,951,000 up to $2,448,000. I believe we received about 7 bids in total, and the low bid was under the total project budget. The total project budget is $2.3 million. So at that point, after the bids were opened, the designer, the architect, conducts the references, looks at all of the materials submitted, and concluded that the low bidder does have the relevant experience, the relevant required experience to do a project of this size. We had a call on Monday with Dr. Bailey, myself, the town administrator, the architect, and also the owner's project manager. So the owner's project manager, once the project gets started, will be on site every day overseeing the project, keeping an eye on the contractors, making sure that, all the specifications are adhered to, safety regulations are adhered to. So they're really, our eyes and ears. They have a special, they're specialists. They certainly know more about roof construction than any one of us here would. So they're really going to be our eyes and ears. And within that call, both the designer and the owner's project manager felt that this Young Developers were capable of performing and qualified to perform a project of this size. So the low bid has been accepted, and we're just working on contracts now. So once we do that, we can get the supplies ordered and hopefully be ready to go as of the last day of school and have this roof replaced finally over the summer. So any questions on that? Nope, okay. And finally, school nutrition update, pretty much, unfortunately, status quo, still struggling with, supply chain. I'm sure you've all heard it on the news for everything. It's hit a lot of national news for school lunch. So we're just, Jean and her staff are just trying to get what they can in, taking advantage of situations as they come. I think I put a quick note in here that one night last week, Jean got a text at 9 o'clock from a supplier saying, hey, we got trays, order them. So it's, it's certainly not easy, but they're still serving lunches for the kids, and we're still able to move on. They continue to substitute, but it's a struggle.
We don't have, there's no shortage of, there's no kids that are going without food.
No,
No,
currently,
it's
no,
just-
there's not, no.
They're just
so-
not getting the variety.
Correct, probably
Okay.
just not the variety,
Okay.
but it's, for example, when I was in the CAF one day, one of the managers, I think it was here, said, oh, I've got tons of craisins, so the kids are going to, get sick of craisins. So it may be that, we have a lot of one thing at one point, or, I know at the elementary school, Jean showed me boxes of the not so nice cereal, some of the cereal that isn't what the kids like as much. So, we have the supplies, but it's just not what we're used to, so.
That's everywhere. with
Yeah.
Everything.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that is, one last thing, disposal of surplus materials. So a few meetings ago, we had a lot of materials that the staff at the elementary school, I believe, had identified as surplus. Over here, our library media specialist has been going through a lot of the books and materials you see here to see if there's anything that's outdated, incorrect, insensitive. So she has identified a list, which is in your packet, of nonfiction and fiction that's out of date with incorrect, outdated, or insensitive information. Some of the fiction books are duplicates. They're showing wear and tear, or they just haven't been checked out for 10-plus years. I know Mrs. Betancourt and myself like to say there's probably books in this library with little cards with our little grade 10 signatures on them, checking them out. So Miss Owens took some time to go through it, and she gave us some options for disposal, such as possible resale, offering them to students, recycling so that they're not going to the trash. So you can see the list of all of the materials that she has identified. So at this point in time, we would just need a vote to allow for disposal of these items.
Okay. If I could request a motion of approval to dispose of the materials outlined.
So move.
A second.
All those in
Can
favor?
we do a discussion?
Oh, yeah, sure, sorry, all those, sorry, I should always do that.
That's okay.
Any further discussion?
So I'm just taking a peek at this list. We're removing some of the books because, this is my thing, we're removing some of these books because they're just not good for the children, or because they're in bad quality? Because I see a lot of good things.
Right, so some of them, for the folks that don't have access to this here, the year is listed, the title, the year, the quantity, the condition. So some of them
Oh, it
are in
says
good
why.
condition.
Yeah,
Some
I
of them
see
are very
that.
good. So for example, the second one down, Collier's Encyclopedia, the year is 1984. It is in very good condition, but the information is outdated. There might be some other, like for example, Encyclopedia Americana from 1988 is also very good, but we have a more recent edition in our collection. So there may be other reasons that we're, some of them may have, as I said, insensitive or stereotypical information in it that's outdated. One of them from 1973, How to Draw Houses.
I just want to
Low
make sure
circulation,
to the public
you know,
that we're
yes.
not getting rid of books just because we
No,
want to get
no.
rid of books.
So I
That's-
did notice, and Miss Owens did an excellent job of compiling all this information for us. It looks like the average year of all of everything that she's seeking to dispose of is from 1980. So that's fairly old.
And even I see one that says multiple copies.
Correct,
You know,
yeah.
This one's damaged, but we have multiple
Other
copies.
better
of it.
copies.
Right,
yeah.
right,
Just
Right.
wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, there's one that says, so when it says the title, Black Beauty from 1973 is in good condition, but we have multiple better copies of that one. So some of those things I know she mentioned in her information to us that, maybe some students, if these are books that are their favorite books or they like them, if they want to take them home, if we donate them to students or what,
My
so.
son comes home with 22 World Book encyclopedias, I'm going to be upset.
Did you hear that, Mrs. Sylvia? Yes,
Do not
yes.
give them.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
All right, so if I could request a motion of approval, please, for the disposal of surplus materials listed.
Wasn't a motion already
We
made?
already did this?
Sorry.
Sorry, okay, yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and
Thank you.
thank you, Mrs. Flynn. And do any school committee members want to have any reports?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to the members of the committee publicly for the outreach and kindness to me. Same for the administration. Appreciate that.
Well, you're very welcome. Okay, and there's some communication and information listed there in our packets that were circulated. We do not have executive session this evening, so our next school committee meeting will be held here at the library on Tuesday, December 7th at 5:30. If there's nothing further, if I could request a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.